We heard pop, 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 pop. And we looked and we were looking for like lights, and lights never happened. And then we heard it again. And then all the lights went off on the stage. And then people started running.
After the first round, I was just like, no, like, we gotta go.
It was very traumatizing seeing all these people in fear for their lives, and hard for me not to be in fear for my life as well. And I just kind of took off running.
We were laying down on the floor. I didn't know to get up, to run, to stay, to duck. Didn't know if it was safe to move because just of everything that was going on. It was really scary.
I'm not sure what this guy was doing, but everything was going on so fast, and it seemed like it was never going to end.
"64-year-old Stephen Paddock, a resident of a retirement community in Mesquite, Nevada, checked into the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. It was the 28th of September, and he brought in more than 10 suitcases with him and stayed peacefully for 3 days. Then, on the night of October 1st, at about 10:05 p.m. local time, the massacre started. Paddock began pumping bullet after bullet at the 22,000 people gathered for a country music festival taking place there. They were in a straight line below his hotel window. The firing went on for almost 11 minutes. There was utter chaos at the concert site and around it. As people panicked and bodies fell, the police desperately tried to make sense of what was happening and why. SWAT teams were pressed in to comb Hotel Mandalay, one floor at a time. They were trying to track down the mystery shooter, but by the time they broke down Paddock's door, he was already dead, having taken his own life. An AR-15, an AK-47, and 21 other guns were found in the room, and there were hundreds of rounds of military-grade bullets.
Average, everyday Joe Blow. Nothing stood out. You know, it was just a normal timing for him to come in. He was talking how he was new to the area, kind of visiting all the firearms stores in the area. Found something on our shelves that he really liked, and it took him a couple different trips, I guess you could say, before he ended up purchasing.
A later search of Paddock's Nevada home turned up 19 more guns, along with explosive tannerite and several thousand rounds of ammunition.
This individual was premeditated, obviously premeditated. The fact that he had the type of weaponry and amount of weaponry in that room, it was pre-planned extensively, and I'm pretty sure he evaluated everything that he did in his actions, which is troublesome.
There are troublesome questions concerning what motivated Paddock to check into a hotel room overlooking the music festival. Why did he stock a cache of weapons there? And why did he set up cameras inside his hotel suite and the hallway? Because there was no logic to what he did.
Like this, my brother's dead. Who wasn't this guy who did this? He's dead. I liked my brother. He was a good guy. And I know this is, nobody wants to hear this, but damn. If you knew Steve, once again, people 20 years ago who have no reason to say anything nice about him or anything, or say nice things about him. People who don't even know him hardly. This is a horror, just a horror story in every possible way.
We, the Mesquite Police Department, have not had any contacts with these people in the past. We haven't had any traffic stops, we haven't had any law enforcement contacts, no arrests or nothing.
Investigators poring over Paddock's life for clues have struggled to get beyond the superficial image of a man who had no known criminal records.
The 100 investigators have spent the last 72 hours combing through the life of 64-year-old Stephen Paddock to produce a profile of someone I will call disturbed and dangerous. What we know is Stephen Paddock is a man who spent decades acquiring weapons and ammo and living a secret life, much of which will never be fully understood. He meticulously planned on the worst domestic attack in United States history.
He was very quiet and kept to himself. Not sure about the two next door neighbors, how well they knew him. I've heard that you wouldn't even know that he was here, except the trash cans would come out and then they would go back in. So very nerve-wracking.
I would say whenever we analyze a mass murder, we have to look at everything. It's geno, psycho, biological, social, economical, cultural, ethnic issues. All these issues, whenever we analyze, we call it a psychological autopsy, which will be done for Vegas killer also. So all these domains of a person's life have to be microscopically examined to actually see what was the area which was responsible.
We must locate this man where he was, which is Las Vegas. Now, Las Vegas is the other side of America's addiction. One is to gun culture, the other is in this area to legal gambling. He was, I believe, a fairly regular gambler and not a tourist gambler. Now, the sociology of gambling, like gun culture, tells you that there's high suicide rate.
While everybody is justifiably confused and aghast at what Paddock did, there may have been events in his past that he repressed. Events that could have ultimately led him to lose control of sanity.
Could be a planned suicide. He sent his, they say he sent his life partner away because he didn't want her around when he killed himself. It could be that he had recently transferred a lot of financial wealth. Maybe he was suffering some kind of crisis. These are all motives, only they may not have been verbalized. Maybe he was against these, as a local Nevada man who's retired there. He, at the end of his life, he's there, and here are these young people and outsiders coming, and what he sees as his life's blood. Gambling was to him, he was known to be a problem gambler. They call it problem gambling, where you do it regularly, like eating. What are these guys coming and playing at what I take so seriously, you know? He may have been against the tourists who he killed anonymously. So motive is always there, but sometimes it's verbalized, sometimes it's for us to profile and locate.
Usually it has been found that either they had criminal background or they had link with terrorists, whether ISIS or anybody else, or they had some delusional belief, or they were intoxicated, or they were psychopaths. In Las Vegas shooter's case, the only thing which we are getting at this juncture is that his father was on FBI's most wanted list as a robber. So there was definitely genetics playing a role, but from my point of view, if you ask me, there are definitely some things happening in the mind of a person. Now that person could be a person who feels persecuted from the society despite having a high level of achievement and having respect in the society. That person's self-perception of himself or people around him could be delusional in one way or the other. That person could be planning and doing it such massive mass murdering under the influence of drugs, or there could be something seriously wrong in the structure of the brain of that person.
The motive is not always psychological. that something went off, or how could it have gone off at an instant? He has planned it. The motive can be social, something to do with the culture around you. So if you broaden the word motive, there's bound to be a motive here too. He is not just a crazed man, who went out of control. No, he's planned it, he's executed it, and he's killed himself. These are very planned actions.
Before the event of 1st of October 2017, the mass shooting at an Orlando nightclub in June 2016 held the spot as the worst mass shooting by a single shooter in the United States. 49 people had been shot dead and around 58 injured by Omar Mateen. But in that case, the motive was clear. The shooter had called the state police to inform that he swore allegiance to the leader of ISIL, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And his was an act of retaliation for US attacks in Iraq and Syria. The Orlando shooting happened a mere 6 months after a Pakistani-American couple shot dead 14 people and seriously injured 22 others in an attack at San Bernardino in California. In that case too, the perpetrators were inspired by Islamic terrorist organizations. That attack in December 2015 made headlines as the deadliest terrorist attack to occur in the USA since the September 11 attacks, only to be upstaged by the attack in Orlando a few months later. But both these attacks had followed a pattern. They made a political statement. They were acts of terrorism, acts that made sense to those investigating the reasons. What makes the Vegas attack terrifying is the lack of any plausible motive for the acts of Paddock, lending a dystopian patina to the killer's intentions.
We are not a hunting culture. We tend to go the legal way, the posturing way. Violence here tends to be of groups against each other. Even when they target, it's like lynchings, or the 84 riots, or the Gujarat riots, which is far less common in America. It's anonymous, far more anonymous. This man doesn't know who those people are he's killing. It's mediated by technology.
Mass killings, shooting massacre, gun culture, common terms the world has grown accustomed to, hearing about the bloody history of gun violence in the United States of America. It is one of the few developed countries in the world which has constitutionally protected the right to bear arms. Studies depict the US is far and away the most violent developed nation, largely due to the easy access many Americans have to firearms.
Certainly there's a sociological profile too, and that's what permits us to speak with some authority on America being different. The fact that these have, not because America only knows violence, other countries too know violence, but somehow this particular mode of what they call lone wolf as against a targeted audience, it could be a school, it could be a gay nightclub, it could be like this Las Vegas music stadium. It's usually like one man against a captive crowd, you might say, people who can't go anywhere. This has clearly been a kind of trend, and I would say it has a lot to do with why America itself is distinct. It's unique as a state. I don't think we can wish that away. Though it's a lone wolf, he is acting out the social forces around him, the political forces around him. And to just name a few, one is America is a deeply righteous, powerful, hunting state. When I say hunting is, look at the way they went after Osama. Add to that the ease of availability of guns. It's not the only factor though.
Mass killings in the United States are mostly carried out with guns, mostly obtained legally. The death toll changes, the location and state changes, even the motive varies, but the presence of the gun remains omnipresent.
Sandy Hook School. I think there's somebody shooting in here. Sandy Hook School.
2012 witnessed one of the deadliest shooting massacres in a US school. In Newtown, Connecticut, on December 14, 2012. 20-year-old Adam Lanza fatally shot 20 children, as well as 6 adult staff members at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Before driving to the school, he shot and killed his mother at their Newtown home. Later, Lanza shot himself in the head. Most of the shooting took place in the school's first grade classrooms. The victims were mostly students between 6 and 7 years of age. The shooting prompted renewed debate about gun control in the United States, but these debates had raged in the past and not much happened. 2007's mass shootings had had a similar response, a call for immediate strict control over sale of gun and ammunitions. The prompt was the Virginia massacre. On 16th of April 2007, on the campus of Virginia Polytechnic Institute in Blacksburg, Virginia, Seong Hui Cho, a student at the institute, shot and killed 32 people and wounded 17 others in 2 separate attacks before committing suicide. At that time, this was the deadliest shooting carried out by a single gunman in US history, sparking intense debate about gun laws and gaps in the US system for treating mental health issues. The gunman, Cho, had previously been diagnosed with a severe anxiety disorder. Investigators later discovered Cho had been declared mentally ill by a judge and was ordered to attend treatment. However, he was not institutionalized and so was still allowed to purchase guns. The shooting had another eerie aspect. The gunman had sent across an 1800-word manifesto, photos, and 27 digitally recorded videos time-stamped between the first and second shooting episodes. Cho had likened himself to Jesus Christ and expressed his hatred of the wealthy. Although TV channels that aired his video rants were heavily criticized by the victims' families, it highlighted Cho's mental instability at the time of the event.
By and large, if you notice, these shooters are also males. So a lot was supposed to be to do with the video games culture.
On April 20th, 1999, 2 teens went on a shooting spree at the Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado, killing 13 people and wounding more than 20. The duo then committed suicide by shooting themselves. The crime at that time was the worst high school shooting in the US. The two, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, were students of the same school. Right after the shootings, there was speculation that the two committed the killings because they had been bullied or had been influenced by violent video games and music. None of these theories were, however, ever proven. Investigators later revealed Harris was a clinical psychopath with a messianic-level superiority complex, whereas Klebold was depressive.
Columbine disaster till date, they're still trying to find a motive. Yes, largely motives are seen as psychological because these were young kids. You know, that they came from broken homes, or they bunked school, or that they were under the influence of pop musicians who were violent in their lyrics. This was rampant then. Online issues became central. There had been killings before that, there had been cult violences, that America always had violence, but after Columbine massacre in the school, these issues became, because also it's the young and males, young boys in particular. And so they must identify their own problems better. Don't blame it on others. They have to look at all the snakes in their own social setup and not just put it on political enemies. You know, the terrorist, the other boy, the other religion, the person who doesn't look like us. They're very conformist Americans. They allow freedom and autonomy, but within limits. So America better wake up. If they wake up, we'll all wake up.